So the Trax is all new for the 2024 model year and has grown from the previous generation. A lot of people might be cross-shopping the Trax versus the Trailblazer in the upcoming months once these vehicles are side by side on dealership lots. However, the Trailblazer does offer some exclusive equipment that is not available at all on the Trax. So that's what I want to cover here in this video, is explaining the differences between the 2024 Trax and the 2024 Chevy Trailblazer. Now, unfortunately, I don't have all the exact details regarding the 2024 Trailblazer quite yet because it is going through a mid-cycle refresh and Chevy has not released the full order guide information just yet for that vehicle. Now, I'm going to assume based on the 2023 Trailblazer that most of the options and features will carry forward through the mid-cycle refresh. They will just change some minor appearance differences, packaging, stuff like that. But most of the key features that are different between these two models, I'm assuming will carry through to the 2024 model year. So do keep that in mind while watching this video. So first in this video, I want to cover the physical size difference and dimension differences between the 24 Trax and the 24 Trailblazer. Then we'll discuss the powertrain and drivetrain differences between these two models. Next, move on to the options and features that are available on one versus the other. And finally, we'll cover the approximate pricing information between these two models, as I do have full pricing for the 2024 Trax. However, I don't have full pricing for the Trailblazer quite yet. So I've went through the order guide information and wrote down all the dimensional differences between the 2024 Trax and the Trailblazer. Now, I did use the 2023 Trailblazer dimensions. However, like I said, this is just a mid-cycle refresh. They aren't changing anything dramatically. So these dimensions on the outside may change just by a tenth or two of an inch, but on the inside, it should remain exactly the same as the last model year. But we'll take a look at the wheelbase and some of the exterior dimensions. The Trax is overall going to be larger than that of the Trailblazer, even though it is technically the cheaper or less expensive vehicle. So in terms of wheelbase, you're going to have a 2.4-inch longer wheelbase on the Trax. The length is going to be over 5 inches longer than that of the Trailblazer. The width is going to be about a half an inch wider on the Trax versus that of the Trailblazer. The height is going to be about 4 inches lower in height of the Trax versus that of the Trailblazer, which looks a little bit taller overall. That is something when you look at the two vehicles side by side, as you do notice how low the roofline is on the Trax. And lastly, when it comes to ground clearance, you're going to have about a half an inch less of ground clearance on the Trax versus that of the Trailblazer. However, there are some models of the Trailblazer that do have about the same ground clearance of that of the Trax. So overall, not a huge difference in terms of the ground clearance between these two vehicles. But outside of that and the height, most of the dimensions are going to be larger on the Trax. So next, discussing the interior dimensions of the Trax. This is also going to be larger in most cases than that of the Trailblazer, which is the more expensive SUV. So looking at the headroom, you're going to have about 1.25 inches additional headroom in the Trax. You're going to have additional legroom in the front, a little bit less legroom in the rear to the Trailblazer according to GM specs. You're going to have a little bit more shoulder room in that of the Trax. You're going to have a little bit less hip room in the Trax according to their information once again. And finally, looking at the EPA passenger volume and cargo volume, you're going to have slightly more cargo volume in the 2024 Trax versus that of the Trailblazer. And overall cargo volume is going to be about even between these two models. A tenth or two of cubic feet difference between them is really not noticeable. But overall, it is going to be very similar in the inside between these two with a slight edge to the new 2024 Trax. So next, moving on to the powertrain and drivetrain of these two vehicles. Now, starting out with the 2024 Trax, this is offered with one engine, one transmission, and one drive type. This is the 1.2-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder, which produces 132 horsepower and 167 pound-feet of torque through only front-wheel drive and only a 6-speed torque-converted automatic. Now, when you move on to the Trailblazer, this is offered with two engines, two transmissions, and two drive types. So the same 1.2-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder is offered on the Trailblazer as well as the entry-level engine, but the 1.3-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder, which is just a slightly larger version of the same engine, is offered, and this upgraded engine does offer 155 horsepower and 174 pound-feet of torque. Now, on the Trailblazer, the 1.2-liter and the 1.3-liter turbo are mated to a CVT type transmission when paired to front-wheel drive, and the only way you can get the all-wheel drive is opting for the 1.3-liter turbo, and those all-wheel drive versions are paired to a 9-speed torque-converted automatic. So essentially, the base engine in both these vehicles are going to be the same, the 1.2-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder, same output, everything like that, even front-wheel drive as the standard entry-level drive type for both these vehicles. But But just note you can get the 1.3 liter turbo as an upgraded engine on the Trailblazer in both front wheel drive and all wheel drive. If you get front wheel drive on the Trailblazer, it's a CVT, and if you get all wheel drive on the Trailblazer, it's a 9-speed torque converted automatic. So next, moving on to the features and options that are different between these two models. Now for 2024, the difference of these two shrank because the Trax is gaining features and options it actually never had available in the previous generation. So the main features that are exclusive to the Trailblazer and not available at all on the Chevy Trax are going to be all-wheel drive, panoramic sunroof, fog lights, premium upgraded audio system, the rear seat center armrest, a 120-volt wall outlet in the back seat, interior auto-dimming rearview mirror, power liftgate, as well as a fold-flat passenger seat, which is a very cool feature if you need to carry something that's fairly narrow but extremely long, up to about 8.5 feet long, as a matter of fact, will fit inside of the Trailblazer. Now outside of this, all the other features and options are going to be available across at least certain trim levels of each of these two models. Now there are a lot of things that are gaining on the 2024 Trax that weren't available in the last generation, like I mentioned. So some of these standard things across all Trax and Trailblazer are going to be the standard safety systems with optional adaptive cruise on both vehicles. Wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay is standard across both, and there's a bunch of other options such as heated seats, heated steering wheels, LED projector headlights, and automatic climate control, stuff like that, that are at least available in certain trim levels of both vehicles. So like I said, they do come very well equipped, especially in their upper trim levels, but even some of the middle trims such as the LT and the RS are going to be very well equipped, especially on the Chevy Trax. So finally, to cover pricing differences between the two. Now, all these prices mentioned will not include destination because I want to keep this consistent between these two models. Chevy has only released the pricing information excluding destination for the 2024 Trailblazer, and of course the build and price tool for the 2024 Trax is live. You can go do that on the website now and see the full pricing for that vehicle as it is, as those should be hitting dealerships in the next 2 months or so, give or take. But all these prices that I'm about to mention will not include destination. So take a look at the 2024 Trax. It comes in LS, 1RS, LT, 2RS, and active trims. This starts at $20,400 for the cheapest LS front-wheel drive and goes all the way up to active at $23,900, and that also applies to the 2RS as well. So that is basically the price difference between the base and the most fully loaded Trax. Now there are available option packages that you can get, but overall the most expensive fully loaded Trax, including destination, is going to come in less than $27,000, which is quite impressive. Now moving on to the Trailblazer, the LS is going to start at $23,100, goes all the way up to $27,100 for the RS or active. So you can see there is about the same price spread between the models as the entry-level price point. And when you compare the Trax to the Trailblazer, once again, there's going to be about a $300 to $3,500 price difference between the equivalent LS to LS trims or the top active to active trims. So overall, just note that there is going to be that difference between the two, but as you can see, they are quite similar in terms of price point as a whole, especially when you compare equivalent trim levels. Now, like I mentioned, the most expensive fully loaded Chevy Trax for the 2024 model year is going to come in less than $27,000, including destination. Now, if I go off of 2023 pricing for the Chevy Trailblazer, I'm going to guess the most fully loaded Trailblazer active or all RS with all-wheel drive and all the option packages is going to come in somewhere between $30,000 to $34,000, including destination. So to me, this is a pretty large gap that most people might not consider equivalent between the two, but once again, these vehicles will be cross-shopped between buyers given they sit in the same subcompact SUV segment. So it will be interesting to see which one people gravitate to over time. I would say if you're looking at front-wheel drive and don't necessarily care about the power output of the engine, then I would say the Trax might be the way to go to save some money, but if you are needing all-wheel drive and some of the nicer features on the inside, then you will have to opt for the Chevy Trailblazer. So that's pretty much going to wrap up this video between the 2024 Chevy Trax and the Trailblazer. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. I will be excited to get hands-on with the new Trax here in the upcoming months, like I mentioned, as the first shipment from Korea has at least crossed the ocean or is in process. I read a few days ago. So these first shipments should be arriving at dealerships, like I said, within about 2 months or less. And I believe they're actually increasing production on the 2024 Trax due to expected demand being very high. I wouldn't be surprised if the Trax does extremely well, at least for the first few model years when it's brand new, because there's not really a vehicle in this price point that offers the same amount of equipment as the 2024 Trax, at least that I can think of off the top of my head. So I can see this being a very competitive vehicle, at least in the short term, until some of the competitors kind of catch up and offer similar options and features on their subcompact SUVs. But once again, hopefully this helps you distinguish the differences between the 2024 Trax and the Trailblazer. Let me know down in the comment section below which one of these two vehicles you would rather pick if you were in the market for a subcompact SUV. Like I said, I think if you need all-wheel drive, live in a climate where all-wheel drive is super beneficial, then the Trailblazer will definitely be the way to go. However, if you can skip that and live in a southern state, somewhere it's warm most of the time of year, or just don't want all-wheel drive, then the Trax might be the way to go to save some money and get most of the available options and features for just a lower price point. So let me know all that down in the comment section below. If you guys enjoyed this video or found it helpful, hit that like button. Definitely appreciate the support here on the channel. Subscribe if you guys are not already subscribed, and check out some of my other videos here, including other comparison videos between the Trax, the Trailblazer, and just a bunch of other content as well. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get to do a walk-around video in person at the Chicago Auto Show with the Trax, but I did kind of take a look at it for a brief few seconds, and overall, like I said, I think it is going to be a very attractive, very popular subcompact SUV. But let me know all that down below, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.